Thank you. All right, it is my pleasure to call to order this meeting of the Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority for Harrisburg on Wednesday, April 22nd, 2026. Quorum is present. First item of business is approval of the minutes of February 25th. You've had those for review. Are there any corrections or additions? Hearing none, a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second, okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. As is often our custom, I am going to, if there is no objection, reorder the agenda a little bit because we do have a guest with us today, Ryan Unger from Creedic. So to be respectful of his schedule, he is on our agenda today to give us a review of the Economic Development Comprehensive Planning Project. Yes, so please come on up there. And for the board and the public's information, we did finally make the promised grant to Creedic that the board had approved a while ago, and the agreement signed, and board members have copies of that. So that's all underway. I'll also note that there has been a good bit of work that we've been invited to sit in on, including 2 meetings of the governor's team, and there's another one scheduled, I believe, next week. So we are looking forward to hearing your update, Ryan, and then we'll see if there's questions from the board.
Great, thanks, board. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate all you're doing in your partnership as well. Yeah, again, thank you to the ICA for the support to try to kickstart these efforts. If you take us back to December, we had yet not, received confirmation about any kind of state funds that were coming, and we were waiting for additional resources to try to help us bring on any kind of professional competency to kick these off. So we were able, with the commitment from the ICA, to procure the services of the Pennsylvania Downtown Center to help us kick off an important part of this work, and that's the public engagement piece. I think when we had our conversations with the mayor and the city council, when Victoria was with me last time, and Robert at the city, one of the items that came up again and again was the importance of engaging the community as part of this process. That is a critical component of any kind of revitalization effort, but especially one that's emotionally important to the city of Harrisburg and the region as a whole. To that end, we have kicked off this effort with the Pennsylvania Downtown Center, and I'll give you a little bit of summary of that, but I also want to talk about kind of broader revitalization efforts to make sure you're aware, and as Doug said, you've been a critical part of a lot of those conversations that we have had to date. What are my notes say? Yeah. So again, we kicked off our engagement process with a online survey, which is kind of a baseline survey. I know Jeff probably in Chambersburg is a very similar type of survey for downtown Chambersburg. Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership does it every year, and Philadelphia University City District, a lot of Main Street kind of like economic revitalization initiatives do this, and it's intended to really kind of set your baseline for your economic development efforts. So. And I think it's important to note a couple of things on the survey. It's a perception survey, so it's not a reality survey. I tried to tell folks it gives us an idea what residents, workers, visitors feel when they come downtown, and that helps us really, first of all, measure success in the months, in years ahead in terms of where we're at. But it also allows us an opportunity to kind of target our efforts and potentially, look for early implementation wins and projects upon areas that we already can see are probably a significant perception deficit to kick things off. A really good news is we've had over 4,000 responses to the perception survey, which is significant. And when you look at doing this work, our initial goal was 1,500, which is about 3% of the city's population. It's a great benchmark to kick these off. We've obviously well surpassed that, and we'll wind down the survey here, but it's a concerted effort of all partners. The city posted this out, the school district sent it out to parents, so we could have a good crosstab and representation from residents. The Commonwealth included it in the employee bulletin to get feedback, and I checked the survey within a few hours. We got 300 to 500 responses, hopefully on workers. And all of those parties and folks are an important part of this work. I was talking about this earlier today, and while I'm incredibly happy with the 4,000 responses, I'm really excited that over 800 people said, "Here's my email. I want to help and do more." Right? Like I just don't want to give anonymous thoughts. Like I want to be a part of the solution going forward. I'll talk a little bit about maybe some ways that we can help catalyze that going forward. Since we first convened and were able to bring on the Pennsylvania Downtown Center, they have set out on this chart of doing their kind of multi-layered approach to public engagement. That begins with one-on-one stakeholder interviews with a cross-reference of folks, whether it be the mayor, certainly Gloria at the city, but also potentially past bid directors, downtown improvement district directors, current developers downtown, residents, a wide variety of folks that have been interviewed to try to help inform this process as we kick it off. In May, we'll be holding focus groups that are invitees of kind of like major constituencies and groups, whether that be office workers, residents, it could be state workers specifically, bar and restaurant owners, small business service owners, major institutions, arts, culture, and entertainment. You can get the idea of the focus groups, and we're appreciative. We're going to be holding those downtown at the Locust Office Building. The Rural Electric Cooperative is a really nice conference space, and we're kind of booked it for entire days, so we can kind of go through and have these opportunities to engage as part of this engagement process and the focus groups to get their feedback. Now, we'll then pivot, and at the same time, we're planning public workshops to be held all over the city in June as we go forward, June, July timeframe around specific kind of topic areas, right? So that would include, I mean, I'm hesitant to say specifics because we want to still get surveys and responses. And certainly let Julie, the team weigh in, but examples could include green space, walkability, those types of things and topics, programming, resident, livability. There's different types of areas, and will allow opportunities for kind of small group conversations throughout those efforts as we go forward. And at the same time, delivering, I think a draft product back to our work group at the end of this summer. And that will include a series of items, thanks to your support, that will allow and position potentially the city to formally enter a Main Street program to then hopefully get priority funding from the state and other areas as part of this. As part of those efforts, you need to have a 5-year revitalization strategy as part of that. And also, more formalized vision statements and mission statements for what our goals will be downtown. And Downtown Center helps us kind of really tidy up that package so that we can go to DCD and bring in additional revenue, hopefully to support downtown efforts here in the city as well. I mentioned before that one of the things we wanted to do in looking at the perception survey is identify opportunities for initial wins, right? Short-term objectives. Because one of the items that we put in the scope of work with the Downtown Center is we understand that revitalization planning takes a while. Kudos to them. They're able to do what typically is an 11 to 12 month process for us in 8 to 9 months because they recognize the urgency. But I'm not naive to think that people will plan and their eyes roll back in their head and they think of a binder that might sit on the ship. And we said we had 800 people interested early on. We've got a great response to the survey. Let's try to show action early on for that. So thanks to the support of Senator Kim, we were able to procure funds to go directly to the improvement district to add additional police patrols as part of their off-duty police program and ambassador program during key hours for the downtown. And that coverage began the day that money came in mid-March and will continue throughout the calendar year as well. And they're intended to be both security, but also ambassador patrols for the downtown as well. We've also begun an early project inventory of potential capital improvements for the downtown area. That is everything from office to residential conversions that we think are ready right now to move forward, but there is a gap in terms of capital for those projects, to streetscape improvements to places like 2nd Street, Market Square, potentially redevelopment. Blackberry Commons is one that we've talked about, the connection between the Amtrak in downtown as well. We've looked at a host of capital opportunities, gateway projects, things like that to recognize Representative Mattson was speaking at an event and said, we're right now in the budget season. Let's get asks in now. We've got incredible support and commitment from governor's office, this group, DCED, and all the partners. Let's go now and say that we've had some initial conversations with focus groups and workshops, and we're still building out a full comprehensive 5-year strategy. But we know these projects are critical right now to show that things are changing and things are improving downtown. We also hope to, in the coming weeks, roll out some more opportunities for not just those 800 people that want to do something, but other community groups to play a role in this process and to own it a little bit of it. Because one of the things the survey told us was, we love the concert series, we love Arts Fest, we love Proponent, but it was a really nuanced thought that takes a lot of time, effort, and capital to try to pull those off. You can't do it every week, right? Like, you can't do one of those signature events. But can we develop more, small type events, pop-up parks, pop-up beer gardens, for example? The project we saw today that Harristown did at Cornet Park is an example of the third spaces that we want to create. Can we do public art installations, different things like that? And we hope to provide some of the funds that have been secured for the Commonwealth to create it, or put those back out on the street in some type of formal way. We haven't fleshed that out yet, so I tell that to you as we build it, but we want to be clear and transparent that we want this to be a community process and want a lot of folks involved as well. And at the end, I always usually start with good news, because I think it's important. We talked about the increased police and off-duty police patrols, so they did. I think it's also important to note we're going to have an expanded Dauphin County concert series this summer, which we're excited about. We know from past data that a week of concerts brought around 12,000 people downtown. And if you remember me speaking last time, we've got to replace foot traffic as part of our efforts here, and that's a way to do it. Earlier this morning, we celebrated the opening of Cornet Park, which is the location of the former Cornet restaurant in Market Square. That is a collaborative project. Harristown Development originally planned to build an office building at that spot, right? And certainly with the shifting real estate market, I think realize we probably have enough office inventory in the market now, but what do we need? And working with the Office of the Budget, we help them manage a RACP and bring other capital to the table. Now the UPMC stage at Cornet Park will host starting tonight, an Earth Day event and different activities and events throughout the year. Also point out that directly next door, Denim Coffee, I see your Denim Coffee there, will be opening what is their largest location, right there in Market Square at the location of Kathy's former offices and buildings there in Market Square at the Menaker building. And again, continuing to see investments in programming. The apothecary is opening, that we've kind of seen a reactivation of the Locust Street kind of square there, right? With the work that Justin Browning and his partners are doing there, and also McGrath's expansion into the former Rugus space as well. So again, thank you for your support in that. Again, the coming months will include focus groups, public workshops, and then again, some draft documents here by the end of the summer. I did provide the full scope. I know to Jeff, and I think Michael and Doug as well about that work. And we're really appreciative of that. And again, it's allowed us to get a running start as we waited for some other pieces to fall into place. Glad to answer any questions.
If you have any questions, go for it. I'm curious about the ambassador patrols downtown. A couple questions. First, what is their goal in patrol? Yeah.
So I think there's a couple things there. Like, again, we noted in the perception survey, there are concerns with cleanliness and safety. That's not different than we've seen in other downtowns, right? With some of that is decreased foot traffic, some of that is lighting, but some of that is seeing a visible presence, right? Like checking in at a restaurant to make things sort of sure okay. I think it provides reassurance certainly to the restaurant owners who ask for something of that nature. We want to be responsive to that. And it also allows folks that are new here, stop someone. And that's typically you would ask, right? You stop, someone you see on a foot patrol and say, where do I go, and help guide there. So Their goal is multiple in that the downtown improvement district has managed that program for years and has had success with that and seen positive feedback from the business owners and residents downtown. And this just allows them to expand that. You know, they've seen a reduction in assessments downtown, just like you've seen in the financials, and that impacts their budget. So I'm going to make sure that they were whole for that and they could improve those and increase those and have them reviewed.
And then just a follow-up question, would they be using these ambassador patrols at any other part of town other than?
It's just in the downtown improvement district footprint, right? So that currently runs from State Street to, I believe, not Cranberry, to Mulberry, excuse me, Mulberry's there, and from Front to Seventh, I believe is their assessment basin. So since that's partly paid for with the restaurant owners and those folks down there, that's currently their lines.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
I had a shot at Ryan earlier today.
Yeah, that's it again. You had a meeting earlier today.
Okay, very good. And one of the things I hear the most is from neighborhood groups.
Mhm.
Hey, when can we like pitch in a few words or,
Yeah.
you know, and you had mentioned that as
That will be
one of
focus
your
group.
adjuncts.
That is absolutely a focus group in the capital area neighbors. I've talked to Mark, because, you know, I sit down recently as today.
Yeah.
I think they have a critical role, you know, to play in that. And they'll be a part,
Right.
both of the public workshops, but also have a chance just as a focus group of the neighborhood organizations to weigh. I should also note that at the request of the city and the housing authority, we, Julie and the team have already had some focus groups at some of the senior living towers that are located in the city as well to get their feet, right? Like what they would like to see adjacent to the downtown as part of the downtown as well. So we're trying to really connect. It's been an important part from, you know, feedback from council and the city that we really want to see residents have a voice in this as well. So we sought to do.
I appreciate your outline of some specific project ideas. Right? That's something that we've been talking about for quite a while. And recalling in particular the first meeting with the governor's staff, and the governor is saying, okay, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to put some money in, but you give me specific projects and things that are going to move the ball forward.
Yep.
And I'll worry about where the money comes from. But the bottom line was real projects, and as you say, not a wish list or, you know, a little pie in the sky.
Where do we have a potential capital already lined up? But I think we all know, you know, you've seen the declining assessments downtown, right?
Yeah.
So one of the challenges a lot of times for these office to residential conversions are, you know, the buildings are, you know, banks are not, you know, understandably going to lend the amount of capital necessary. Construction is expensive. Historical preservation construction is more expensive, right? You're not, you know, we're not demoing buildings. We have beautiful architecture. That was one of the things we learned from the survey. So to do that, it's just a higher cost. There's going to be a delta there. And we're meeting with, you know, specific projects, specific delta to understand where they exist and where can we bring in additional support and resources to try to close that. Because with people that want to invest, we should try to help that along as much as we possibly can.
So at our last meeting, we had representatives of the school board here. We were talking about tax base and we were talking
Right.
about assessed values, and you know,
Yeah.
that's all part of this discussion too. And one of the things that they had talked about was doing some more work on pilots, payments in lieu of
Correct.
taxes. And we've had a little bit of an email exchange on that and the different direction that Pittsburgh's taking a look at. And what we're going to be having a presentation from the city at our next meeting on where current inventory and current planning. But I don't know if you have any thoughts.
No, some of those conversations have taken place. I wouldn't say that they're like directly involved as part of our revitalization efforts. I think we certainly want to lend, you know, support and insight and guidance. I know those conversations carry on in the school district, but also the city does have a pilot program, right? And like I think you had said, is it achieving all possibly can, and how do we bring some of those stakeholders to the table? It's a really big one, you know, involved, right? As part of that. And I know that's been something that both Representative Madsen and Davidson have talked about. So I'm gonna let them take some leadership role on that. So I think we're gonna reach out to them too, because I know that they, you know, they feel like something there could be done.
Ryan, we have been in discussions with Mr. Farr and Capital Region Transit.
Yeah.
And he's gonna come to a future meeting and
Yeah.
talk a little bit about his vision for how that organization can be involved in transit-oriented development of TOD. He thinks there are some opportunities for his agency
Absolutely.
to participate in economic development by sort of parlaying on the advantages of the existing transit, which is mostly bus system, but also other similar types of transit that he and his agency are looking into. So just your thoughts on whether or not there are opportunities in Harrisburg to use transit-oriented development to try to bring something to the city.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things in that area that we're looking at as kind of like, big time spokes on the wheel for our work. And yeah, I talked to Rich, I think shortly after you asked him, right? Like, because we had a conversation. And as part of that, he's like, so the ICA, I think he Googled and saw our name, maybe, and they're a good group. But I think the first thing we're looking at, frankly, is when the rapid transit station, transfer station moves to Cameron Street as part of their development of that plot in Cameron. What does that do, for Market Square? I spoke earlier at the Cornet Park, Market Square. When you look at the early years of the city, that was the hub, right, of our city. Sure. You look at the Market Street Bridge, it was designed to like show off Market Street and Market Square as like, welcome to the region, right? Like you come across the bridge, you have these tall spires, you have the courthouse on your right, you've got new senior housing coming up here on your left, and then you go to some of the biggest developments in the city. And I think everyone agrees that the best spot for a transfer station to be, right? And that's why they're moving it to Cameron Street, because it's similar to what you've seen that they've done at Rapid Transit in New York and some other places as well. So I think our first, piece we're looking at is how do we, there's been some initial plan and design that we have seen and done. We have taken part, way back to 2019, looking at how do we reprogram, redevelop Market Square to be better community, third space. I have postcards throughout my office and they're all in Market Square, right? I mean, you talk about downtown, they were all Market Square, right? And how do we recapture that? So that'll be part of this process till I talk to residents, property owners. That is a city-owned, I believe, stretch in front of a private building, right? So, what are they willing to reprogram in their first floor space? What does the market bear? But also then, how do we develop, again, some kind of green space? And I think that's an opportunity because it will still need to be a bus stop, right? And I think Rich has been clear about that. They still we want a downtown bus stop, what you were alluding to earlier. But how can we partner with CRW and Rapid Transit and, help CRW achieve some of the, things that they need to achieve by, not just putting pavement down, but building green space there. And make something that really is a convening place for our downtown, tied into what Cornet Park is doing, don't duplicate it and do things like that. I think the second piece is as, Rich is undergoing kind of a recalibration, I think, of their routes and can they develop, I don't want to steal too much of his thunder, but like high intensity corridors, right? Like we've talked to him about that. And I think as part of this work, we'll try to identify where we think additional transit will help drive foot traffic. He's had some success with that. It requires funding and it requires kind of a rethinking of how that system works. And then as we kind of go to the outskirts of downtown, that's where you've got Amtrak and the Prairie. We haven't quite got there yet, but I think you kind of look at these kind of hubs and then what this book's going to be.
But looking forward to talking to you.
Yeah.
Other members of the board.
Okay, thank you, that's great.
You got a question on parking?
We really appreciate the work you're doing. We appreciate the involvement we've been afforded and
No, appreciate you. And we've talked about it for a while. I should be really clear that this is a partnership. I've always like the way I try to talk about our work is that, we help try to set the table and, the mayor and her team have been definitely engaged in this work. No doubt the governor's office, deep high levels of local leadership, PCD or state legislators, and in the private sector as well. So it's been a truly good partnership and it's great to see the region, think about this, the importance of the downtown region. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Good to have you with us today. All right, so returning to the order of our agenda, we'll now be doing the chair's report. And so it's been a lot, there's a lot going on at the moment. I did have an opportunity to meet with the mayor a couple times on several different matters. Most recently, just a couple days ago. Generally, I would characterize her mood as good, that, you know, the finances are running in a direction that she believes is appropriate. She is pleased that they have nearly in place the FOP agreement. That is something that she and I talked about at length, and something that I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more at this meeting and then also at the June meeting. And Brian will have a little bit, but we'll have more detail on the numbers in June. But the bottom line is, as we send out notes, it's a 3-year agreement, 7% raises a year. The agreement itself is now available online, at least on the city council's webpage. So 35 pages if you feel like strolling through. But the annual increase is really the operative point. At city council last night, the city's collective bargaining agent indicated there's really nominal changes in the benefits sections, just a little bit of tune up on some of the pension issues and a couple of related matters, but otherwise nothing truly material. And so it is really raised. Those are real numbers. But when they began the discussion last night, the city's competition, they said that one of the neighboring municipalities, the starting salary for a police officer is 118,000, and the city's is just over 60.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's kind of the marketplace that we're wrestling with, and we currently are down by about a quarter, as I recall, of the complement for the force, and a couple recent resignations are part of that. So the idea is to swallow hard, do some meaningful increases. Still won't quite get the starting salary up to that level, but it will at least make the city a little bit more competitive for those who prefer the working conditions here, may have particular affinity to the city. One other small piece, I think there's a piece in the agreement that will allow, or they're still under discussion, will allow a longer term officer to come in at a higher rate rather than the starting salary, although they'll still start at the first year level in terms of seniority. But, you know, that's also an additional incentive for pulling people in from other departments. City council, I think, reacted almost unanimously in support. Obviously, it was just a work session last night, but it was in their discussion. I think they latched on as well to the priority of recruitment and retention, and so are willing to work through whatever the financial cost is going to be. We don't yet have the final fiscal analysis on the agreement. That will wait till after council's final action, which is scheduled for next Tuesday. But I think obviously we can anticipate with raises of that size that it will touch the 5-year plan. And we'll have some more detailed discussion in our next meeting on how it affects the current year's budget as well.
I don't know if there's a funding, Mr. Chairman, available still through the Department of Justice COPS program, but if they're talking about increasing the complement of the police department, there is federal money to offset that somewhat.
Okay.
It's always good to know when there are programs.
Kind of be shuffling the deck if you're adding to the complement when your current complement isn't full, but yeah.
But I'm just saying, if they have X number and they're going to Y, then
Right.
the federal government might say that's
Okay.
an increase in complement.
Okay, so pass that along.
Mr. Chairman,
yeah.
is that out to the union yet, for ratification?
It's been ratified.
It's been ratified.
Yes.
Is, Mr. Chairman, is 118,000 seems like an outlier to me. That's more than the state police.
It probably is, yes. But
Why would we use it as a benchmark?
No, it's not, it wasn't used as the benchmark.
Okay.
It was used as an example of market close.
Okay.
I think the benchmark is a lot closer to where we are, but not close. So 80 to 100.
Okay.
Might be a little bit closer to our collective comparables.
So they did do a competitive
Yes.
analysis. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Let's see, what else? I think, also important to note that Antonia Magna's been confirmed by council as the new business administrator for the city. And, that session went very well, and it was a 6-1 vote, as I recall. So, and, presentation, was done really well, and, a good recognition of the potential for better dialogue and conversation between council and mayor's office. So that's also good in its own right. The other thing was on the agenda recently is the city's hired special counsel to review its mercantile business privilege tax ordinance. That is not based on any particular threat or challenge to it, but rather a recognition that there's been an accumulation of case law all around the statute itself that prompts the city to do a revision, or at least an update, or review and update. And they've been hired in the spring. The target is to have it in place by the 27 fiscal year. Any changes that are necessary by then. Let's see. The mayor is approaching final selection for staff for an economic development position and for the position that I was doing the LERTA review, but no more detail than that, other than good progress being made. So she's hopeful that there will be someone in place soon. And let's see what else. In Ryan's conversation, we talked about the pilot. We're going to have a presentation on that at the June meeting. And I just wanted to mention, I'm in arrears. I promised you all a little bit of analysis of the school board's notion of whether the county should be prompted to do a reassessment. There's a good bit more to that. I did at least pull some of the figures together. Dauphin County is not a terrible outlier relative to the equity of its assessment. It is old, but not terribly bad by comparison to most current standards. So its common level ratio is 40%. That's more an indication of age than it is of equity. The other two primary equity measures of equity are coefficient of dispersion, and the county's about, I think, 1.2. So they aren't bad. They're actually within the target range. Really, the optimal target range is 15%. They're 20-some%, but state tax equalization board's allowance is up to 30. So okay, there's that. And then the other measure of equity is something called a price-related differential, and that's a vertical measure. So how accurate are the values of your lowest valued property compared to your highest valued property? And the county actually falls within the guidelines for that. So basically, it's general. Okay, we can have a little bit more discussion on that at our June meeting. Let's see. So I think that's all I have. I don't know if anyone has any questions for me on any of that. Some of it we'll follow up in a little bit more detail when we get to Blendon's report.
You have been saying June meeting, but we're talking about moving it to July.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So reflex, it's June in my notes. We're talking about moving that to July. We'll get to that when we get toward the end of the meeting. Thank you. Thank you for the reminder. Reflex. Okay, so let's talk about then Sue's financial status. Ready, sir?
Okay, yes, my ears are working out. Good day, everyone. Pretty much want to break this up into 4 to 5 reporting segments for myself today for the board. And the first 3 of those are the handouts that you have this time. And the first one goes to the general fund. Down at the bottom, it says 1 of 2, 2 of 2. And it has each month of the recent quarter ended showing the activity, summarized revenue versus expenses on the functional classification that the city uses in its financial statements. And I wish this were the case for every quarter to come. 11.7 million in revenue over expenses for the quarter. Of course, the big thing that's driving that this time of year is the city's discount real estate tax money. So that's a big reason for such an increased revenue over expense. So we're ending the first quarter with a healthy cash fund balance position of just over 26 million. On the second page, the denoted 2 of 2, this is just a little bit of an explanation. And I base it on, I try to limit this to things that are that come to mind right to the surface. And the main thing why year-to-date revenue 26 compared to prior year is running $7 million roughly ahead, simply relates to the capital fire protection allocation the city receives from the Commonwealth. As you may recall, because of the budget delay last year, that receipt was not realized before the end of last year. So it came in January. And of course, it's just going to be a factor in comparing year to date, year on year. That's on the revenue side. On the expense side, down below, year to date, 26 versus 25. The first 2 months are, I'll call them nominal increases based on materiality. But now into March, the biggest thing to note, of course, is the other on the expense side is Broad Street Market project comparison from year to year. So an increase of 1.2 million in expenses compared to the prior year. So, but again, we're ending March in a healthy position, cash fund balance wise. That's the first handout. The second handout, it's another 1 of 2, 2 of 2. It says revenue, general fund, GF at the bottom. I thought you would like to see from the financial system, our revenue in its subcategories. And you can see, again, I mentioned real estate tax where we've received almost 3/4 of the budget. And again, that's being driven in large part by the, if not all, by the discount real estate payments. So that ties in 31.4 million at the bottom in total year-to-date, ties into the previous schedule I just reviewed. Now, the second page, the 2 of 2, it's laid out in the same way. The one thing I don't have on here at the bottom line is the fund balance appropriation amount, which again is based on an anticipation of use of fund balance, expenses exceeding revenue for the year. But I thought it would be good to show you this as the first quarter has no need or no use of fund balance. Almost 33.6 million compared to the budget. And it's a nice number again, based on where we are. This is as of right now, April 21st. So it's one of those, it is what it is type reports, but it's a good is what it is. It's, you're thinking in terms of 4 months, and we're right there around 1/3 of the budget revenue. But I get it. We don't, unfortunately, recognize our revenue on an even flow throughout the year. There's various factors, and there's big items that happen later in the fall. But anyway, this shows at least an update of where we are right now. And this is through yesterday's treasury report. It includes revenue through yesterday. And again, this is just a general fund. That's the second handout. The last handout is just a single page. This is a somewhat newer presentation because I thought it would be good to show all of the funds that are appropriated by council that are tied to the budget ordinance. So the grant funds are excluded here. But it includes the ones, as you know, of course, the general fund. Special revenue funds include liquid fuels, the host fund, and then we have our proprietary funds, neighborhood services, the senator's fund. The special funds come next, the blight fund, all the way through the events fund. Those were the special carved out funds appropriated out years ago. And the last two on here are the capital projects fund, which is mainly driven by engineering's oversight on various streets and roads projects and the debt service fund, which is nominal, but it's here because that fund again is appropriated by city council. What I've highlighted up on near the top in gray, again, to mention the encumbrances. So again, this shows cash at the end of March last year, cash fund balance at the end of prior year, and then up to where we are now, cash fund balance at the end of March 26, and then the encumbrances backing them off, which again, this syncs up better to what you see from whenever the controller sends out their monthly report to elected officials, because the encumbrances are part of that reporting. 23 million on encumbrances for the general fund. And that is extraordinary in the sense that 2/3 to 70% of that is Broad Street Market, which is about 15.9 million at the end of March. And the money is encumbered, has to be, in order for the contractors to keep moving along on the project. But it is not anticipated that's going to be the actual cash spend by the end of the year. But we have to show at least what's been encumbered, what's been secured budget wise.
On
yeah.
that subject, if I can,
Sure.
does your system allow you to encumber money in excess of the budgeted amount? Because you're so close to the total general fund size, and I realize there's going to be, your whole point I think you're making is that Broad Street Market is
Right.
is encumbered through the general fund, but of course, it's not showing the revenue that you hope to obtain from the insurance and the grant, or just the insurance, I'm not sure. But it's possible you might have encumbrances exceed the total budgeted expenditures of the general.
And I understand what you're saying, but that's not the case.
Okay.
Based on where the budget is right now, there's the original appropriation, and then of course we do that roll forward
Right.
of encumbrances at the end of last year, which included Broad Street Market.
Okay.
So when that happens, not only for Broad Street, but all the other encumbrances, we took that down to council, as we do every year in the early part of the year, asking them to increase the budget
Okay.
based on that. But how do we do that? We do that through fund balance appropriation,
Okay.
right?
So
On the revenue, it's not a revenue, but it's a revenue account.
So
the
it sort of
balance.
encumbers against the fund balance,
Yes,
because you have to encumber against something.
correct.
So that's what you can encumber against.
But we constantly look at, throughout our check runs, at least what I do, not on a budget manager detailed level, but I will run reports that show, are we in compliance with the ordinance based on the account grouping?
Okay.
There may be individual lines that are negative, but as long as that account is in a group that can be, it's absorbed for the time being,
Right.
we're in compliance. But then the budget manager and our finance team will further review that to remedy negatives, to prevent them from getting too severe.
Okay.
All right.
Got it. Back to your story.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's a good,
It was a very in the weeds question.
that's a
but I
nice,
appreciate that.
side road. But down to Neighborhood Services Fund, I normally have a presentation on that, but I didn't want to get too lengthy. But the cash position of the Neighborhood Services Fund is in relatively good shape. I've always thought of that fund, which includes all the main fund and the three boroughs, to be somewhere around the $5 million mark. And you can see the comparative if you look back to where we were last year at 5.6, and at the end of March of this year, we're down to over 5.1. We're down to 5.15. So there's a little bit of a receding there of that cash position, and it fluctuates, of course, throughout the year based on expenses that happen that are not uniformly being incurred every month. I also highlighted the Harrisburg Senators Fund. There's such a big drop in that, and that, of course, is just attributed to the FNB upgrade at the ballpark, and where that is, and it's down to where it is right now, but that project is, if not all, it's very close to being wrapped up. There are, as you can see, a few encumbrances still remaining out there against that balance. And recently I reached out to our facilities director just to review that, to see if those commitments are still needed, for the vendors that did the work. And what's good to know, we recently received the stadium, the first 50% portion of the stadium rent, the Senators this year. So that's typically when it happens at the start of the baseball season. And the last thing on this schedule is the final column, which again, I thought I would show where we are cash wise as of today, as of yesterday. And again, the general fund is holding around that, in excess of 23 million right now. This includes both check runs that have occurred this month and also both payrolls. So what we have left to do on the funds is 7 more days worth of revenue. So that's the good news. That in this case, we can only go up from here to the end of the month. So that's any, before I move on to my last couple of reporting pieces, or any comments or further questions? So what have I been engaged with in recent times? And, of course, quite a bit on the audit front side. Good news. Today, from my lead partner contact at Boyer and Ritter, we have a draft of the 2023 audit. So he'd like me to review that, and my plan is to get it out to the audit committee so they can review it and come back with any comments, and then get the final issued report ready so we could issue it before the end of the month. That's the goal. And then have the audit committee actually convene for the lead partner or principal of Boyer, based on his schedule, to get the committee to convene not long after to go over it from his perspective.
So sometime in May.
That's what I'm thinking, early part of May for the final review, with the audit committee. But
We like to participate.
certainly. Understood. So that's really good news. I can't tell you. Understating it. 2023, yes, right. And also I've been working on sticking with the audit side. The Department of the Auditor General has come in, and they're doing compliance audits on all 3 plans, 2023 and 2024, both years. So that's getting, they've been at it for quite a while. Just when I feel like I'm done, it's like the Al Pacino comment, right? They keep coming back with more questions, but they're very, very thorough. So I'm hoping we can get everything that they need from a material perspective by the end of this week. So that's coming along. March is a big month for filings, and we have completed all of our required filings, which are usually annual filings from the previous year, including with DCED, the survey of financial condition has been filed. There are, with the Auditor General, 2 pension forms, the 490 and the 385 have been submitted by the end of March. There is a PERTA filing, which is the Public Utility Realty Tax Act filing, which the city actually benefits from that because we report the tax revenue from the previous year, and we usually receive somewhere between $45,000 and $50,000 later in the year as income on that. Also with DCED, I did catch up. I was behind on January and February with the Act 47 coordinator, Madro, and that has been, we're caught up now for those files, so that's good. And I feel like I'm missing. Oh, I know what I'm missing. I mentioned pension. Every other year, the Act 205 valuation reports are submitted and filed, and I don't do that. I mean, it's done by our actuarial entities, which is Conrad Siegel for police, and then PMRS does the other 2 for fire and uniform. So those have been submitted and they have been approved. So those are in good shape. And I saved it till last, Jeff, and I'll let you, if you want to comment more on it whenever you want, but I'm aware of Jeff's trying to wrap up the Section 203 annual report. It's due to the Commonwealth by the end of this month. So I've just sent him one thing, but I don't want you to worry because I've been pulling in updated narrative for the people that know what to say.
I'm less worried about you and more worried about me, Brian, because I have to take what you do and lay it out.
Piece it together,
Yeah.
right? So I'm working on it. And I will be sending you some of the narrative before the end of this week.
I think the act says 120 days from the beginning of fiscal year, so that's how we got to April 30th. But I don't know if they're gonna send us a letter saying you missed it by a day or two. You're in trouble, so we'll get it to them as close to 120 days as possible.
Yeah.
Endeavor to comply is not what we've said.
Yes, yeah, always a good effort.
Mr. Chairman, if
Yes.
I may, is
Please.
it normal for the Auditor General's office to be audited in 2 years?
Yeah, typically, yes, I've had that experience where the city's subject to not only pension audits by them, but also the state liquid fuels
Yeah.
tax fund. They tend to do that on a multi-year level too. They, at one point, I remember they did 3 years at one time, but it seems like 2 is more than normal.
So there's no reason to be concerned that the Auditor General's office is in that.
No, I mean, they come back and they review and then they make recommendations or develop any findings.
Yeah,
But
but
that's
that's
the,
part of their charge.
that's their flow. Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Now, the Act 205 actuarial report is important for the state aid
Mhm.
that you will get.
Thank you. And not the one, that too, but the one report, the 385 report is a report, it's a prior year.
Right.
And it has all 3 groups, police, fire, and non-uniform employees. So that it's a roster that goes and they do that, they take that and review it, and that determines the calculation for later this year of the pensions.
Which is very good.
So, yeah, that's a big revenue line.
Right. Make sure you get your state aid for pensions.
Right. Yeah, really endeavored to get that one in when it was 2. Right. But Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you. Actually, on that latter point, it was noted at the council meeting that the police pension is fully funded. So
Yeah.
that's not the case for many Pennsylvania municipalities. Right. Any other questions? Very good. Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Update on appointments. I've had outreach from both the House majority and the House minority, but outreach is not an appointment. So we're still not quite there. And we are going to renew our check-in with the governor's office. So any questions? Any expressions of frustration? Thank you.
Let me know if I can.
Okay, yeah, I actually, we should chat. Okay, let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped the reports. I'm bouncing that.
That's fine. So everybody has in front of you the bills paid report. I think you have the most up-to-date one. Did change several times in the last 48 hours as bills came in late, but I think we're up to date. You will notice that our fund balance has dropped significantly this month because of our generosity with the project, which is what our money is for, not to sit in the bank, but to help the city of Harrisburg. So, good move, but it has changed our balance this month. And we should be fine now as we approach the end of the current fiscal year. Soon we will be in the next fiscal year and we will go back to the well to try to get some more money from the state. It was always been terrific to us. Okay, and then the next thing is, it was mentioned, we do have the annual report on Harrisburg city activities, which we're working on together, even though we haven't got ourselves totally in sync as we sit here today, but Brian and myself, and I will definitely make sure that all the members of the board get to review full copies before it gets sent to the state. But you did get a preview in your email of the executive summary. And obviously, this was the product of the chair and myself, and we're happy to discuss any of that if you'd like, or you can hold your comments to get the full report, whichever you're we're happy with. But I think you get a flavor from the executive summary is where we're going with the report in general.
And I will just fire a shot across the bow. While we believe the city is still in sound financial health, I think the word we settled on was challenged.
Yes.
And that's an acknowledgement primarily of the long-term effects of COVID and declining use of office space and commercial space downtown in particular, and then overall the domino effect that that's had economically and culturally, visually, and all the rest downtown. And so there's strong support for the revitalization planning that's underway, among other things, as well as the follow-up that's necessary to make that a reality. Now, other than that, many of the comments are the ones that we've expressed before.
I did note that we are sort of making a small argument for the importance of the ICA as being sort of the neutral, non-partisan, look at the city's future, which we still think is a necessary and important role in the finances going forward, because obviously we have been in existence far longer than anybody originally suspected we would be in existence. In fact, our term hasn't actually begun yet officially. But there is a question as to whether or not the ICA is providing some sort of benefit. And obviously, we're taking the position that absolutely it's providing a benefit. And as times continue to be challenging, going forward, the role of the ICA is being a partner in a collaborative effort to make sure the city stays fiscally sound. So we're starting making that argument too.
Any initial comments or?
One question about the executive summary. You mentioned the incinerator litigation.
Correct.
Are you going to go into detail in the full report?
No, we don't go too far into detail with it because we're not a party to it.
Okay.
We only get updates from Mr. Grover occasionally as to where it stands. And as far as I know, there hasn't been any imminent movement on it. And that is the key to the whole leaving Act 47 situation, that it's just stalled. The litigation has stalled, therefore the leaving Act 47 has stalled, which also means that the ICA's term is stalled. It's all connected. And as far as I know, there's been no progress other than maybe conversations.
My understanding at this point, all of the preliminaries have been completed, so preliminary objections and all of those things in discovery and all the rest, and so they're waiting for the court to set trial date.
Right.
And then I think the supposition is once a trial date is set, then everybody gets serious about, do we need to settle or have a sidebar?
Now, there has been some conversation, just conversation between the state, because the Act 47 coordinator remains the only plaintiff in the case. And Commonwealth's behalf and the city as to whether or not that could be moved to some other person or position with permission of the court, as opposed to the coordinator. For example, it's been discussed maybe secretary of TCED as opposed to the Act 47 coordinator, because in doing so, that would allow the exit from Act 47. While it's in position as the Act 47 coordinator, we must maintain that there is an Act 47 coordinator, which means that the city must remain in Act 47. So it's sort of a circle that the only way to get out of that would have the court allow somebody else to represent the Commonwealth.
Jeff, wouldn't they also have to forgive the OPEB trust requirement?
To get out of Act 47, yes,
Yeah.
but that's, believe it or not, that, although we are very concerned about that, nobody else is as worried about that as we are. The big thing though is that they can't have the coordinator's position evaporate. So they must stay in Act 47 status. But if the court would just permit some other person or position to represent the Commonwealth, which the court can do.
Mhm.
That would allow the city to exit Act 47 status. And continue the litigation. It's without that being an issue. So it's a strange technicality that has kept them in Act 47. For all other intents and purposes, they could probably get out of Act 47 status. If not but for the incinerator litigation.
And that would enable us once again to borrow if we wanted to.
That's one thing that it would have, although I don't know that the city's credit worthiness is in a place to actually borrow. But it certainly removes that prohibition. I think that it just gets them off that list of communities in 47 says, which the current administration has tried to shrink to as few as possible. Is it three at the moment, of which Harrisburg is one. So it would be nice, I think, to move them on to another status, but it's just not possible because of the incinerator litigation. A strange situation, which, you know, litigation often puts you in strange situations, and that's what it has. So I know those conversations have occurred, but to date, it's just been conversations.
Should all those pathways that you just described be part of the report?
So we do mention that in depth about it, why the litigation has held it up, why the litigation
Okay,
has stopped us from our term from beginning, and also why it has prevented them from exiting Act 47 status. But that's been the case now for years without any movement on that issue, which is odd. But, I mean, as I said, litigation isn't. So,
Any questions?
no problem. And I'm sure you will have more thoughts once you see the report. And happy to do this in an offline interactive one.
Thank you. All right, is there any other business?
I'll do the moving.
Well, I'm getting there. Give me a second. Okay.
You're good.
Well, yeah, why don't we go ahead and take that now?
Okay.
So we will not be able to achieve a quorum on Wednesday, June 24th, our next regularly scheduled meeting. And so in some stage managing prior to this, it appears that July 8th is a suitable date for us to meet instead. And so we will make appropriate note on the website and our legal advertisement, et cetera, et cetera.
We'll let everyone in the world.
Everyone else who's on the agenda. And
We'll move the June meeting to July.
right, July 8th. And just a reminder, at that meeting, we already mentioned, we'll have a discussion, presentation relative to payments in lieu of taxes, but also the board had asked to invite in the project manager for Broad Street Market. So we will include that. And then, as we discussed today, we'll also have to have some discussion on the fiscal effects of the FOP agreement. Whether that has a material effect right now on the 5-year plan, certainly will going forward.
Sure.
Any other business?
Just one question, should the new business manager have a place on the agenda or just?
He actually will be the focal point because he's doing the presentation of paying low taxes. And so that'll be the kind of the intro
We'll get you going next.
that you're under fire.
Should he be consistently on the agenda as similar to the fiscal? Meeting?
We should do that. Sure.
Sorry.
Antonio will be on every agenda for that forever now.
For the fact that he and Bob have been showing up with,
Yes.
it doesn't appear to be a burden. And it does appear, well, no, I'll say it honestly, it does appear to help the cooperative relationship and your understanding. So, and they have stepped up to the table previously as resources, questions have arisen.
It's a good phrase.
Thank you. Okay. I think there's no other business, so public, okay, I'm sorry,
Just, yeah, just add one more thing. Thank you. Jeff, I think your one email earlier this week about, updates for the board. You mentioned FOP, but also like our treasurer's office initiative to engage.
Yes, the e-payments, we did talk
Yeah.
about that.
Yes, and I'll have a little bit, I did receive some write-up from Steve Bortner,
Good.
and how he sees that. That'll be in what I supply you for the 203 report.
Sure,
But Treasury is like, they're leading that charge.
we understand.
And there's two sides to it, but the side that has the most focus is the revenue side on it. It's a digital bill pay platform. That's trying to be brought forward and then integrated with eventually Munis
Right.
for
I
compatibility.
think we don't have to talk too early. I think we just wanted to make sure it stays on the radar. Because it had come up in the
Yeah.
discussion with Mr. Bortner, so we don't want it to disappear. At some point, we should have if it's still in discussion of planning, we don't have to have a discussion.
That's
But at
where
some
it is.
point-
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know the board was interested in that subject.
And our interest in part was cash flow, but it was also in a proper integration. So it didn't create additional layers of either work or conflicts in data transmission.
Right. So we're just keeping it on the radar. That's why it was a pain. So,
Very good.
excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is that all now? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, are you ready for a motion to adjourn?
No,
No.
public comment.
Sorry.
Does anybody from the public, Troy, Brian, do you have any questions for us? Yes. Did you have an extra handout?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
We'll get you a handout at the end of the day. Anybody else with any questions? Yeah. None,
Mr. Chairman, are you ready for a motion?
And now I'm ready. Thank you. Thinking that was one.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Thank you all. Meeting adjourned, and we will see you on July 8th.
4:13 PM.